When I slipped on the stairs and broke my arm, my family thought I passed out. I lay on the floor while my wife whispered, "This might be our chance. He's useless now. We could say he fell drunk and speed up the process." My daughter replied, "We'll finally be free." I bit my tongue until it bled. When they arrived, they got a huge surprise. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. Some background, I guess. Me, 42M, and Jade, 39F, have been married for 14 years. We have a daughter, Zoe, 19F, who's in her first year of college. I always thought we were okay. Not perfect, but okay. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. The past couple years, Jade's been more distant, less affectionate, always on her phone, tilting the screen away when I walk by. Classic red flag, right? But I trusted her. And Zoe, well, teenagers are moody, but she went from daddy's girl to barely acknowledging my existence. But I worked my ass off for them. 60-hour weeks, sometimes. Coming home exhausted, but still trying to be present. Still trying to be the guy they needed me to be. And then last Tuesday happened. I'd been asking Jade to fix the loose carpet on our stairs for months. She always said she would get to it, but never did. I even bought the supplies to fix it myself, but she insisted she wanted to do it. Looking back, that should have been weird. So I'm heading downstairs in the morning, half asleep, and my foot catches on that same loose spot. I try to grab the railing but miss, and down I go, hard. My arm twists underneath me with this sickening crack. My head slams against the wall. The pain, it was immediate and blinding, like someone took a baseball bat to my arm. I couldn't even scream. Just this weird gargled noise came out. I lay there at the bottom of the stairs, vision blurry, fighting to stay conscious. I heard Jade rushing down the stairs. "Theodore! Oh my God, Theodore!" She knelt beside me, checked my pulse. I tried to speak but couldn't. Something about the way she was looking at me felt off. Then Zoe came down. "What happened?" she asked. Not panicked, not scared, just curious. "He fell down the stairs," Jade said. "I think he's out cold." And that's when my whole world shattered. I wasn't unconscious. I was dazed, in excruciating pain but fully aware. And they had no idea. Jade lowered her voice to this weird whisper I'd never heard before. "This might be our chance. He's useless now. We could say he fell drunk and speed up the process." My brain couldn't process what I was hearing. Speed up what process? And then Zoe, my baby girl, she knelt down next to me and said something that felt like a knife straight through my heart. "We'll finally be free." Free. Free from what? From me? The guy who worked overtime for years to pay for her damn dance lessons and now her college tuition? I wanted to scream, to jump up and demand answers. But some instinct kept me still. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood, forcing myself to stay unconscious while they continued talking. "How long do you think until the papers are final?" Zoe asked. 2 months, maybe 3. "The lawyer said it depends if he fights it," Jade replied. "But if we can prove he's unstable or has a drinking problem." They were planning to divorce me and make me look like an alcoholic. I don't even drink, except for like a beer when watching the game. "Did you move the money like we talked about?" Zoe asked. "Most of it. There's still about $20,000 in the joint account. I'll move it next week when I get the new account set up," Jade said. "He never checks the statements anyway." They were stealing my money. I lay there listening to them plan the destruction of my life for what felt like hours, but was probably 5 minutes. They talked about my money, my house, how they'd be better off without me, how Jade had someone interested already. And then Jade said, "We should call an ambulance. It'll look suspicious if we don't. Should we change his clothes first? Make it look like he's been drinking?" Zoe suggested, "No time. Just grab that whiskey bottle from the cabinet and spill some on his shirt." I felt drops of liquid hitting my chest. They were staging me as a drunk. When the paramedics arrived, suddenly they were the concerned wife and daughter. "He's been under so much stress lately," Jade told them. "Sometimes he drinks in the morning. I've been so worried." I wanted to scream that it was all lies. But again, something told me to wait, to let this play out. The paramedics loaded me into the ambulance, with Jade riding along, holding my hand in fake, the performance of a lifetime. At the hospital, X-rays confirmed what I already knew. Broken arm, mild concussion. When the doctor asked about the alcohol smell, I finally spoke. "I wasn't drinking, must have spilled when I fell." Jade's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly. "You were definitely drinking, honey. Don't you remember? You've been struggling lately." She turned to the doctor with this concerned look. "He doesn't always remember when he drinks." The doctor looked skeptical, but didn't push it. They put my arm in a cast, prescribed some pain meds, and sent me home with instructions to rest. The car ride home was weird. Jade kept asking if I remembered falling, testing to see what else I might have heard. I played dumb, told her I only remembered slipping, then waking up in the ambulance. "That's totally normal with concussions," she said, sounding relieved. "Short-term memory loss." "Yeah, convenient for you, isn't it?" That night, I lay in our bed pretending to sleep while my mind raced. 14 years. A daughter I thought loved me. All a lie. Were they really planning to divorce me, take my money, and paint me as some unstable drunk? I checked our bank accounts on my phone while Jade was in the shower. Sure enough, our savings account that should have had over $50,000 had less than $20,000 now. Last withdrawal, 3 days ago. $40,000. Gone. I scrolled through our transaction history with shaking hands. Small withdrawals over months. thousands disappearing bit by bit. How had I not noticed? Because I trusted her. Because I was working myself to death for them. When Jade came to bed, she asked if I needed anything, acting all concerned. I wanted to scream in her face, but instead, I just said no and pretended to fall asleep. But I didn't sleep. Not really. I stayed up all night thinking, planning. They think I'm useless now. Broken. A problem to be solved. They have no idea what I'm capable of. See, here's the thing about me that my darling wife and daughter seem to have forgotten. I've always been the planner in the family. The one who thinks 10 steps ahead, the one who solves problems, and they just became problem number 1. The next morning, I told Jade I needed more rest and would stay home from work for a few days. She seemed thrilled at the idea. Of course, honey. Whatever you need. Whatever gets me out of your way, right? As soon as she left for work, I started making calls. First to our bank, then to a lawyer, then to a private investigator I found online. I acted more hurt than I was, more helpless. Let them think I was just a broken man struggling to deal with his injury, all while I gathered evidence, all while I made my own plans. It's been a week now, a week of pretending, a week of listening to them whisper when they think I'm asleep, a week of discovering just how deep their betrayal goes. Tonight, Jade's taking Zoe back to college. They'll be gone for 2 days, and that's when I'll start putting my plan into action. They wanted to be free of me. They wanted my money, my house, my life. Well, they're about to learn a valuable lesson about the man they so desperately want to destroy. I'm not useless. I'm not broken. I'm just getting started. Update. Thanks for all the support and advice. Some of you were asking for updates, so here's what's happened in the month since I discovered my wife and daughter plotting against me. Remember how I mentioned Jade and Zoe were heading back to campus for 2 days? Well, those 48 hours changed everything. As soon as their car pulled out of the driveway, I went into full detective mode. My broken arm made everything take twice as long, but the rage kept me going. First stop, Jade's home office. I'd never really gone through her stuff before. Boundaries, right? Funny how that works when the other person is literally plotting your financial ruin. Her desk drawers were locked, but the key was hidden in the most obvious spot ever, taped under her pencil tray. Like, come on. What I found inside made my stomach drop. Bank statements from an account I'd never seen before. 5 years of statements. The balance? $112,000. $112,000 she'd been siphoning from our joint accounts. Money I earned working 60-hour weeks while she redecorated the house for the 3rd time. But wait, it gets better. There were 3 more accounts. Smaller balances, but still. We're talking almost $200,000 total that she'd hidden from me. $200,000 that was supposed to be our money, our retirement, our future. I took pictures of everything with my phone. My hands were shaking so bad some of them came out blurry, but whatever. Evidence is evidence. Next I found a folder labeled Z College. Inside wasn't college stuff, it was divorce papers. Already filled out, but not filed. They listed me as having alcohol dependency issues and anger management problems. Me. The guy who drinks maybe once a month and has never even raised my voice at them. I sat on the floor of her office and just breathed. Tried not to throw up. The magnitude of the betrayal was like a physical weight on my chest. But then I got angry. And let me tell you, anger is a hell of a motivator. I went through everything. Their emails. Both had their passwords saved on our home computer. Amateur hour ladies. Their messages. Their search histories. Turns out Jade has been talking to someone named Nelson for over a year. Her boss. Hundreds of messages. Nothing explicitly sexual, but definitely emotional affair territory. Lots of "my husband doesn't understand me and I can't wait to start my new life" crap. He'd been encouraging her to leave me for months. And Zoe, my precious daughter, she'd been in on it from the beginning. There were messages between them, strategizing how to get the most out of Dad before the divorce. Zoe had convinced Jade to wait until tuition for her sophomore year was paid before filing the papers. My money. I found a whole document where they'd listed our assets, the house, the cars, my retirement accounts, all divvied up with little notes like, "He won't fight for this," and "easy to liquidate." They'd even taken photos of empty liquor bottles they'd planted around the house when I wasn't home, building their fake narrative of me being some closet alcoholic. Who even does that? Seriously. By midnight, I was sitting in our living room surrounded by printouts and screenshots planning my counterattack. And that's when I realized I needed professional help. Not like therapy, though probably that too, baha. I mean legal help. The next morning I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, the one that 3 different review sites called the Piranha. Her name was Ren, and she did not mess around. I showed her everything I'd found. She didn't even blink, just started taking notes. The plan we came up with was simple, but required patience. I needed to secure my finances without tipping them off, gather more evidence of their deception, document everything, prepare for the confrontation. The next few weeks were the hardest acting job of my life. I pretended to be depressed about my injury. Let them think I was taking more pain meds than prescribed, acted foggy and distracted, all while setting my trap. First, I opened new bank accounts at a completely different bank. Then I started moving money. Not all at once, but gradually. A few thousand here and there, not enough to raise alarms. I installed a small recording device in our living room, in Jade's office. Totally legal in our state since it's my house too. Thanks for that tip, Reddit. I set up cameras, just simple security cams that send footage to my phone. Told Jade they were because I was worried about break-ins while I was on pain medication. She bought it completely. The recordings were educational. When I wasn't around, they talked about me like I was already gone, like I was some sad footnote in their lives they were eager to erase. Jade brought Nelson to our house when I was supposedly at physical therapy. They didn't do anything physical, thank God. I might have lost it. But watching them sitting on my couch, drinking my whiskey, talking about how free she'd be soon, it took everything in me not to confront them right then. But Ren had been clear. Don't show your hand until everything is in place. So I smiled. I played nice. I even started doing more around the house, one-armed as I was, trying to be the perfect husband so they wouldn't suspect. Meanwhile, I was documenting every penny they took, every lie they told, every conversation about their plans. 3 weeks after my fall, I hit the mother lode. Jade left her email open on our shared tablet. There was a message from her to Zoe with an actual timeline for the divorce. Wait for Theodore to pay Zoe's tuition deposit for next year, due next month. File divorce papers claiming irreconcilable differences plus his drinking problem. Get emergency court order to freeze our assets for my protection. Push for quick settlement while he's still disoriented from his accident. Move in with Nelson once everything is finalized. They had it all planned out, down to which furniture they were taking. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay there next to the woman who was actively plotting to destroy me, listening to her breathe, wondering how we got here. 14 years. A child together. And she could do this. The next day was a turning point. I met with Ren again, and we kicked our plan into high gear. We filed paperwork to protect my assets, set up a trust for the money I'd already moved, documented the funds Jade had already taken. Then I started making strategic connections. I accidentally ran into Nelson's wife Tatum at the grocery store, introduced myself as Jade's husband. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She had no idea her husband was emotionally involved with my wife. We exchanged numbers. That would come in handy later. I reached out to Jade's parents, who I'd always had a good relationship with. Just casual conversations, but I made sure to mention how confused I'd been lately about our finances, how large sums seemed to be missing, how worried I was about my memory after the fall. Planting seeds, I reconnected with old friends Jade had slowly isolated me from over the years, started rebuilding my support network for when everything blew up, and through it all, I kept gathering evidence. Every nasty comment they made when they thought I couldn't hear, every text about their plans, every withdrawal from our accounts. 5 weeks after my fall, my cast came off. The doctor said I was healing well. Jade seemed oddly disappointed by this news. That weekend, I overheard her on the phone with Nelson. My improved mobility was apparently throwing a wrench in their timeline. She wanted to accelerate things, file the papers sooner. They were worried I might come to my senses and check our finances. Too late, babe, way too late. By week 6, I had moved 50% of our joint funds to protected accounts, documented over $190,000 that Jade had already taken, recorded dozens of conversations proving their plans, changed the beneficiaries on all my policies, secured all my personal documents, created a complete record of their plot, including the fake alcoholic narrative. And they suspected nothing. They thought I was just this sad, broken man shuffling around the house, grieving his injury, oblivious to their schemes. The final piece fell into place when Zoe came home for the weekend and I overheard them in the kitchen. Jade was worried that the divorce might get messy, despite their preparation. Zoe suggested they find another way to get me out of the picture, something about making me seem unstable or threatening so they could get a restraining order. My own daughter, plotting to falsely accuse me of being dangerous, just to get her hands on more of my money. That was my breaking point. I'd been patient, methodical, but hearing that conversation made something snap inside me. I called Ren that night, told her I was done waiting. It was time to execute the final phase. We set a date, exactly 2 months after my fall. Symbolic, I thought. The day they'd planned to begin their official divorce process would instead be the day they learned just how badly they'd underestimated me. I planned it around a family dinner, told them I wanted to celebrate my recovery. Jade seemed irritated, but agreed. Zoe said she'd come home from college for a free meal on Dad's dime. Of course she would. The table is set, the evidence is organized, the trap is ready. Tomorrow night they'll walk into our dining room expecting the same old Theodore, the pushover, the ATM, the man they've been plotting against for years. Instead, they're going to meet the man their betrayal created. And I can promise you this, it won't be what they expected, because they thought I was broken, useless, defeated. But you don't spend 14 years providing for a family, working yourself to exhaustion, sacrificing everything, just to roll over when they stab you in the back. They wanted a war? Fine. But they're about to learn they brought a knife to a gunfight. Update coming soon. The dinner is tomorrow night. I'll post what happens after it's all done. Wish me luck, Reddit. Final update. Well, Reddit. It happened. The dinner. The confrontation. The aftermath. Buckle up, because this is going to be a long one. I didn't sleep at all the night before. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Jade breathe next to me, wondering how someone could sleep so peacefully while plotting to destroy someone else's life. The day of the dinner was weirdly normal. I went grocery shopping, cleaned the house. Jade kept asking if I needed help cooking, which was hilarious considering she hasn't cooked a real meal in years. I told her I wanted to do it myself, sort of a look at me, I'm recovered thing. She bought it. Zoe arrived around 4, gave me this awkward side hug, and asked how I was feeling. The absolute fakeness of it made my skin crawl. But I smiled, told her I was doing great. Better than ever, actually. If she only knew how true that was. I cooked all their favorites. Roast chicken, those fancy potatoes Jade likes, Zoe's favorite mac and cheese. Even made a chocolate cake from scratch. One-handed cooking is a challenge, but I managed. The table looked perfect. Candles, good dishes, wine glasses, the works. What they didn't know was that under my chair was a folder containing everything I'd discovered. And my phone was set up to record the whole thing, and Ren was on standby, ready for my text. They both seemed uncomfortable during dinner, kept exchanging these little glances, probably wondering why I was in such a good mood, probably thinking I was clueless, a lamb to the slaughter. The small talk was excruciating. Zoe talked about college, Jade mentioned some work drama. I nodded and smiled like the oblivious idiot they thought I was. When we finished eating, I stood up to clear the plates. Jade actually offered to help, for the first time in months. Red flag much? And that's when I decided it was time. I sat back down and took a deep breath, said there was something important I wanted to discuss with them. They both got really still, like prey animals sensing danger. I started casually, asked Jade if she remembered the day I fell down the stairs. Of course she did, she said. Such a scary day. I nodded and asked what happened right after I fell. She gave the official version. She found me unconscious, called for help, was terrified, blah blah blah. Then I asked a question that made her freeze. What did she say to Zoe while I was lying there? The look on her face, I wish you could have seen it. Pure panic. She stammered something about being scared, not remembering exactly. That's when I dropped the first bomb. I told them I was never unconscious, that I heard everything they said. Every single word. The color drained from both their faces so fast I thought they might pass out. Zoe started crying immediately. Jade tried to deny it, said I must have been confused from the concussion. So I pulled out my phone, played the recording I'd made, describing exactly what happened that day. Everything they said, word for word, recorded the same day while it was fresh in my memory. Jade tried to interrupt, saying I was making things up. That's when I pulled out the folder. I put the bank statements on the table first. All the accounts she'd hidden from me. The withdrawals, the transfers, the dates and times, all of it. She tried to say it was for emergencies, for Zoe's education. I just laughed and kept going. Next came the divorce papers she'd already filled out. The ones claiming I was an alcoholic, angry, unstable. The ones dated for next month. Zoe was full on sobbing now. Jade looked like she'd seen a ghost. Then came the photos. The empty liquor bottles they'd staged around the house, the text messages between them, planning it all. The emails with Nelson. I laid it all out, piece by piece. 2 months of evidence. 2 months of their betrayal, documented in excruciating detail. When I finished, there was this heavy silence. Nobody moved, nobody spoke, like we were all frozen in this horrible moment. Then Jade tried a new tactic. Tears, apologies, said she'd made a terrible mistake, that we could work it out, go to counseling, that she still loved me. The audacity. Right after everything I'd just shown her. I just shook my head and told her it was too late for that, way too late. That's when I laid out what was actually going to happen. They had 30 days to move out of my house. Oh yeah, turns out the house is legally mine. Inheritance from my grandmother that predates our marriage. They somehow missed that in their planning. I'd already moved half of our money to accounts they couldn't access. The courts would decide the rest, but my lawyer was very confident, given the evidence of Jade's financial deception. Zoe's college fund, the one they were counting on me to refill next month, it now had exactly $0 in it. I'd moved it to a trust that only I control. I'd already spoken to Jade's parents and shown them everything. They were understandably disgusted with both of them. Nelson's wife, Tatum, now had copies of all their communication. Tatum, by the way, comes from serious money and has a prenup that would leave Nelson with basically nothing if he cheated. I'd be filing for divorce on grounds of financial fraud and emotional cruelty, not the other way around. Jade went from crying to screaming, called me every name in the book, said I couldn't do this to them, that I was cruel and vindictive. I just sat there, calm as could be, and waited for her to run out of steam. When she finally stopped yelling, I just said, "You did this to yourselves." Then I turned to Zoe, my daughter. The hardest part. I told her I'd always love her because she's my child, but I didn't like the person she'd become, that she'd chosen money over family, deception over honesty, and there were consequences for those choices. She tried to blame Jade, said her mom had convinced her to go along with it, that she never wanted to hurt me. The text messages I had proved otherwise. I told her she was an adult now, and adults face consequences. She would need to figure out how to pay for school on her own, take out loans like millions of other students, get a job, grow up. The look she gave me, pure hatred, like I was the villain in all this. It hurt. Not gonna lie, but I stayed firm. After that, there wasn't much left to say. I told them I was going to a hotel for the night to give them space to process, that my lawyer would be in touch tomorrow with the formal paperwork, that they should start packing. As I got up to leave, Jade grabbed my arm, begged me to reconsider, said we could fix this, that she'd made a horrible mistake, that she'd do anything. I just looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I felt nothing. The woman I'd loved for 14 years was a stranger to me. I told her the most honest thing I could, there's nothing left to fix. Then I walked out. That was 3 months ago. A lot has happened since then. The divorce is proceeding. Jade moved in with her sister after Nelson dumped her. Turns out Tatum was not messing around with that prenup. Zoe took a semester off to figure things out. She's barely speaking to me, but her grandparents tell me she's working at a cafe and saving up for school. I'm still in the house. Fixed that damn carpet on the stairs finally. Been seeing a therapist twice a week to process all this crap. Reconnected with old friends. Even started dating again, casually. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice to remember there are decent people out there. The hardest part has been accepting that the family I thought I had never really existed. That the people I sacrificed everything for were planning my downfall behind my back for years. There are still days when I wake up angry. Days when I question every memory, every moment of our life together. But there are also days when I feel lighter, free from the weight of trying to please people who were never going to be satisfied, free from the constant pressure of being the provider, the fixer, the one who made everything work. My lawyer says the financial side will be settled soon. Thanks to all the evidence, Jade's claims have been mostly dismissed. I won't get everything back, but I'll get enough to start over. Last week, Jade called me, asked if we could meet to talk. Said she's been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of regretting. I haven't decided if I'll see her yet, not sure what's left to say. As for Zoe, that wound is still raw. She's my daughter, and despite everything, I miss her. My therapist says to give her time, that she's young and was influenced by her mother, that there might be a path back to some kind of relationship eventually. I hope so, but I'm not counting on it. What I am counting on is myself. For the first time in forever, I'm living life on my terms, making my own choices, building something new from the ashes of what they destroyed. They thought I was useless, broken, an obstacle to be removed. Instead, they broke themselves against something they never saw coming, the truth. So that's it, Reddit. The full story of how falling down the stairs saved me from a life with people who saw me as nothing but a walking ATM. It's not the happy ending I thought I'd have, but maybe it's the one I needed. Thanks for coming along for this wild ride. Your comments and support have meant more than you know during the darkest days of this mess. Like today's story? A super thanks helps me keep bringing you the best daily content. Your support means I can keep doing what I love. Thanks for being awesome.